The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber. So I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten-free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
We hear questions like these all the time. Can TSR injury law help me if I'm hurt at work? Yeah. How about if I was hit by a truck? Yes. It's simple. If you've been injured, it's TSR time. Call us today for a free consultation at 612-TSR time.
It's the Go Gopher podcast with Mike Grimm, episode number 7. I am Mike Grimm, voice of the Golden Gophers, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm pumped up about today's guest. We have one of the most entertaining guys to ever be associated with Gopher athletics, the legendary Polish Eagle. Dick Jonckowski is my guest, and he'll join me shortly, and we'll have some fun. The longtime public address announcer at Williams Arena and Siebert Field, he's also well known for his raucous and comedic role as MC at banquets all over the Midwest. Dick has had some recent health struggles. He'll give us an update on that in a moment. Our Go Gopher podcast is presented by our great friends at Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're a business founder planning to exit your business, start by contacting Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. Sunbelt serves more businesses up to $5 million in revenue than anyone, and True North M&A serves companies with revenues up to $150 million. Get a confidential, no-cost, no-obligation business valuation started today. Make the most of your life's work. Visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com. Our thanks to Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions as they support our podcast and our longtime supporters of Gopher Athletics. Our podcast is also sponsored by State Farm agent Tony Hoagland at ChamplinInsurance.com. As always, our thanks to Tony, a big-time Gopher fan. We invite you to subscribe as well to the podcast. You can also go back and listen to the Go Gopher podcast from weeks gone by. Last week, for example, we have the all-time winningest baseball coach in Big Ten history, the legendary John Anderson, on the podcast. It's absolutely free. You can subscribe at any time, and you can listen for free at any time. This week, it's the Polish Eagle, Dick Jonckowski. He'll join me when we come back.
Hey Gopher fans, this is your State Farm agent Tony Hoagland. We are super excited to be part of the new Mike Grimm Show on Talk North. For the year of 2022, we will be donating $10 to the University of Minnesota Children's Masonics Hospital for everyone that calls our office or checks in with us online and mentions that they heard about us on Talk North and the Mike Grimm Show. We are really excited again that Mike came on board with Talk North. You can reach us at 763-421-4900. You can find us on the web at ChamplinInsurance.com. Again, 763-421-4900, or find us on the web at ChamplinInsurance.com. Roll the boat, Sky Yuma, go Gophers.
It's our pleasure to welcome to our Go Gopher podcast the Polish Eagle himself. Dick Jonckowski joins us. And Dick, great to have you on the podcast. My thanks for you spending some time with us here.
Hey, what a pleasure. I never turn you down, you know that. And plus, I look for the opportunity all the time to talk about the Gopher Athletics and all the other things I've done.
Yeah, you have certainly been a piece of Gopher history, that is for sure, and we'll definitely look forward here as we use this podcast to dive into some of the great memories you've had over the years. But hey, first things first, I want to ask you, I think people remember that you had been diagnosed with cancer a couple of years ago, and want to get an update on how everything is going health-wise, because it's my understanding, as you and I were chatting, that you've had a little bit of a battle here with both the cancer and then the COVID here. Tell us a little bit about how things are going with you.
You're absolutely right. And that first cancer you remember was in 2014 when I was still announcing for the Gophers, and not only did the cancer come, but diabetes came about the same time. So I had a heck of a time, and spent a week in the hospital because of the fact that it was, when they discovered it, it was stage 4. So I was actually lucky probably to live through that. But luckily it did work, and I had 8 chemos, and that actually dissolved that particular one. So I did, I was doing pretty well until last year at Christmas time, just before Christmas. The cancer came back, actually right after Thanksgiving. The cancer came back and checked up and all that, so I had to go through some more chemo. I went through 8, this time it was 6 chemos, and at this time, I'm cancer-free. But then all of a sudden, what happens? I end up getting that wonderful disease that we're all talking about.
Yeah.
You know that. It's just unbelievable. And so I had to go to the hospital for that. Was in the hospital, a couple of different hospitals for about a month's time at least, and even maybe a little bit longer with some of the other stuff that I went through, because I was at home for a while before I went to the hospital. So it's crazy. Right now we're staying, thankfully, at my son and daughter-in-law's house, because of the fact that I can't really do a lot of things at my home as far as lifting and getting in and out of bed and all that type of thing. So it's really been a godsend here that we're able to do that. But hopefully, I don't know what else can go wrong. I hope nothing. But I still plan on doing the banquets that I do that you always love to see, and maybe I'll have to get a driver at some of these banquets. That might be my alternative.
Yeah.
So I know I miss the atmosphere at Williams Arena. Guys like yourself, and of course our favorite player, our favorite gentleman from Chaska, and everything else that goes on. The ushers are very, very great. They always were. To me, and they, what I did. I don't know if you remember, Mike, but what I would do before every game, I would go around to each wheelchair and shake hands with whoever was in the wheelchair. And it's amazing. I came back for a game, when was it, last year, and I had so many people say, "We really miss you." So it makes you feel pretty good.
Yeah, no question. Dick Jonckowski with us here on our Go Gopher podcast. So the good news that I took out of that is that you whipped cancer once, and then you whipped it a second time, and then this curveball of COVID came in. And did you say almost a month in the hospital with that? How rough was that? Take us through the battle there of what you were fighting.
Yeah, it was. They put me in the hospital for a month, and they changed hospitals, and I ended up at the Malastrana Nursing Home in New Prague before they sent me home. So it was really, a very unusual situation. I would say right now, without the pain is kind of tough from this accident on Monday, but I think they told me 5 or 6 days, and it should clear up.
Yeah, and that's a whole other thing in the sense that you and your wife got in a car accident. Somebody blew a red light and ran into you guys, and so you're dealing with that as well. Yeah,
that's very true, and she's holding up pretty well. That situation she has, amazing how well she's done. And then I don't know, it's one of those things where you say how much can you get thrown on you? But that old story about God would never give you more than you could handle. And I think that's pretty true. But a joke I always tell back, you've heard it, I'm sure, just that one-liner. If you want to, if you want God to laugh, tell him your plans. And people agree with that. That's very, very true.
That it is, for sure. You always, the curveballs come when you least expect it sometimes, and so you've battled through all of this. And you mentioned you're able to stay at your son Jeff's house. Of course, Jeff has over the course of time also done some announcing at Williams Arena and some other places around, and so that's nice to have a support system, I suppose, as you're fighting through all of this stuff.
Well, it really helps a lot. Then of course, his wife Brenda is bent over backwards to, take care of us, the two of us. Just amazing. I just hope that I can do something. I know John Anderson called me a big event coming up in May. He said, they're honoring some, I'm not sure which teams they are, but some of the championship teams. He wanted me to be part of it. So I want to make sure I make that, and I hope to get to some games once I can get, once I'm ambulatory, I guess is the word I'm looking for, and to get over there and see the Gophers both in basketball, baseball. I don't get to football hardly ever, but I sure listen. I always listen. I never miss the Grimm shot. I always tell the first time you did a game, I don't think you remember this, and I was interviewed, and I said, well, I'll tell you, to me it looks like a grim outlook for the Gophers this year. And one guy, the announcer, I can't remember who it was, he said, why? I said, well, take a look at the announcer, Mike Grimm. And then he caught it and he liked it. But
yeah, that's
so
good.
all I can was,
the
one-liners is, I always try to find something humorous no matter what it is. And,
as
it usually works out.
Yeah, I was going to ask, as you have fought through some of these battles, how have you kept that sense of humor? And in doing so, do you think that has been a key in helping you get through some of the hard times here in the last handful of years?
Mike, I think you're right, because I've had people tell me, even nurses, because I kid with the nurses, and they say, you have a pretty good attitude. That's the word they use. Yeah, I think you're right about that. I try to find something, no matter where I am, that might be a little bit humorous. Crazy stuff, and the one about any kind of a joke. The one that I love to tell about the burglar breaks into a home, goes up to the second story, pulls out a gun and wakes up the wife and says, "What's your name?" She said, "My name is Betty." He said, "My God, Betty? My grandmother's name is Betty. My mother's name is Betty. My wife's name is Betty. I can't harm you." So he points the gun at the guy. He said, "What's your name?" "Well," he said, "my name is Frank, but my friends call me Betty." So, just crazy things, but stuff, again, that people really enjoy.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And you've brought that to, you think about all the banquets you've done over the years, particularly the baseball circuit. I know that people appreciate that. And man, we can't wait to see you get back out on that banquet. And in fact, I was just talking in recent weeks here with one of the high school baseball coaches, and your name came up because you had oftentimes hosted that Hall of Fame banquet with the high school coaches, and they were talking about the joke you told with the bald eagle, and I don't remember exactly what it was about the DNR officer. And honestly,
yeah.
Literally that was within the last month. We got talking, and we were and he brought up the joke you told at that banquet, I guess several years ago, which is great, right? To have people remember you for humor and know that they miss you and can't wait to get back out on the circuit. But maybe you can share. Do you remember the joke he's talking about?
Yeah, I remember. And I tell it all the time because I'll use somebody that's a hunter that I know is a hunter in the audience. I'll say so-and-so, whoever it might be. I'll use you, for example.
Sure.
I'll say our good friend Mike was out hunting, and he accidentally shot a loon. And the game warden saw it, but he didn't say anything to Mike until he saw him about a week later. He said, "Hey, Mike, I saw you shoot that loon. That's a pretty stiff fine, but what did you do with it?" And you said, "Well, I took it home, I cooked it, and I ate it." And the game warden said, "That's another fine. But I have to be honest, I've always wondered, what does a loon taste like?" You said, "Somewhere between a trumpeter swan and a bald eagle."
Yeah, that's a
he
good
loved
one.
it.
Yeah,
that whole audience just roared.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
No doubt.
Even the kids.
For sure, right? I mean, that's the beauty of. And then what I like, Dick, too, is when you're emceeing or hosting, or just when you are in a group of people. We always got a kick when you were in the media room, and we'd be having our pregame meal at the barn, and you'd be holding court. And what I like is the entertainment value. The jokes are awesome, but I like that you laugh. That's the beauty that you're enjoying it, and that's great.
I learned that from Red Skelton. And that's a long time ago. I was at the State Fair, and I appeared briefly with Red Skelton And we just hit it off for some reason. We talked and visited. I told him what I did part-time as an MC and so forth. He said, I'll tell you what, after the show, come to my trailer. Holy crap. So after the show, he said, bring your wife. So I brought Arlene into the trailer. I got that cigar, Don Tomas, but he never smoked it. He just chewed it. And we were talking back and forth, and he says, Dick, I'll tell you what, here are some real great things I can tell you. One, if you ever notice, I start laughing just before I give the punchline. He said, it works all the time. And he said, the other things you can do, just short little things that people don't even probably notice that you're doing. But I honestly tell you that laughing, you probably notice it. Whenever I tell a joke, just before the punchline, I let out a couple of giggles. And it really works. It's amazing how it works.
Absolutely, it does, and it's always fun. The one of the other times I can recall is when this was when Tubby Smith was the head coach, and he had his coaches shows at a restaurant that I used to go host out at in St. Louis Park. And one time, I think the Golden Dunkers had an event prior to that, and they invited you out to talk. And you got going so good that Tubby Smith had to get a handkerchief out because he was laughing so hard. The tears were running down his face, down his cheeks. You were on an absolute roll. Do you remember that night out in St. Louis Park?
I really do.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Oh, darn it. It wasn't Fridays, was it?
No, let's see. I think it might have been the old Majors sports that they've closed since. I think it was Majors back in the day. Yeah, Majors Sports Bar or something. They hosted the Tubby Show for a couple of years, and the Dunkers invited you out for a little pre-coaches show event. So you held court, and then we did the radio show after that. But man, Tubby was laughing so hard, he had tears running down his cheeks. You went on this tangent of you were teasing Arlene and then telling all these wife jokes. It was unbelievable.
Oh yeah, that routine I have with my wife. He loved that. When I told him I was dating a homeless woman, and he said, "Well, how's it going?" I said, "It's great. You can drop her off anywhere." He just absolutely cracked up. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and he had a little routine when he was a coach here, right? Before each game, he kind of wanted you to tell him a joke of the day, so to speak, to take the edge off, right?
Down, I don't know if people ever noticed, they probably did. He'd lean down, over my area, and he'd say, "What's the new one? What do you have? What do you have?" And I'd have to come up with something that he'd laugh at. It's no matter what it was, he would find something to laugh about. And then I'd always try to change it up a little bit. Like Red Skelton told me, he said, "Did you ever notice that people die in alphabetical order?" He said, "Just look at the newspaper." And he liked that one. That was one of Tubby's favorites.
Yeah, that's a good one. No question about it. As you recall your days both with, I think you're most known certainly for your days at Williams Arena, and this is Golden Gopher basketball, and obviously all those years doing Gopher baseball as well. I want to talk basketball first. I mean, how many fond memories do you have of going to Williams Arena? How many years was it, Dick, that you worked the ball?
Altogether 19.
19 years.
19 years, yeah.
And did you follow the legendary, were you right after Jules?
Right after Julie Pearl.
Yeah.
Right after Julie. Wait a minute, did I say 19?
Yeah.
No, what am I thinking of? 31.
Yeah. I was thinking it had to be more than 19. Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah. I was thinking it had to be
31 basketball, and they honored me on my 30th. And again, on my 31st, with a beautiful microphone, a couple of things they did, and lifetime pass, things like that, which was great. But that was really, you talk about Williams Arena, and I was a kid at New Prague High School. And the first game I ever saw, my English teacher loved the Gophers. And he said, "The Gophers play tonight." I can't remember what it was. I think it was, it probably might have been a non-conference game, like North Carolina State or something like that. So we get in Williams Arena, and that's 1957. So their big star then was Ron Johnson. They had Ron Johnson, Paul Lehman, guys like that. And I'll never forget, I fell in love with Williams Arena. And then, of course, I was ushering after that. I ushered I had a great chance to work Williams Arena and Memorial Stadium. And then eventually, as it came along, I used to imitate Julie Pearl, never thinking that I'd have his job.
Yeah.
I just used to loved to do it. You know, he had that crazy nasal voice.
Yeah.
But yet people loved the guy. They really did. And I could tell you that. I did one game. First game, a couple came over to me afterwards, and they said, "You're no Julie Pearlt." I said, "Well," I realize that we all have our own style." And I said, "I hope I can change your mind by the time the year is over." And ironically, that same couple came up to me after the year, and they said, "You did a good job."
Absolutely.
So that made me feel great.
Yeah.
And the thing Mike, the thing I think is really great too is I'm only the second announcer they ever had, right after Julie. So to me, that's a big honor.
That's incredible, and it was always a comfort too to hear your voice. There's a certain level of just, hey, this is the right in the world when you get to Williams Arena and the charm of the building. And can you give us this is Golden Gopher basketball?
This is Golden Gopher basketball.
See, that all is right with the world when you hear those words, right?
Yeah, I have to agree.
Yeah.
You know, I've always asked some of my favorites, just to mention, you know my three favorite names. I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I'm going to let me take a stab at it because you've told me this before. Of course, our friend Jamal Abu Shamala, I believe, is amongst that trio, right?
Yes.
Jim Shikenjansky, maybe?
That's right.
And Ernest Zigamazabo. Those are my three guesses.
Oh, God, that's right on the line.
Is that right?
You got them.
Yeah. Well, those
right
are
there.
wonderful names, right?
Oh, they are. They're greatest names. People used to say when I'd give Shikenjansky that extra oomph,
Yeah.
"Why do you do that?" I said, "Yeah, why not? He's Polish." give him a little credit. He remembers all that stuff to this day.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I was going to say Spencer Tollickson, but we all know he's a jerk, so we're not going to count him.
Oh, Spencer Tollickson, one of the great Chaska stars of all time.
Yeah, no question, no doubt. So, as you get some favorites over the years, including those guys. And what are some of your memories? Do you have a favorite game or two when you think back to the time that you were working Williams Arena?
Well, I remember the triple overtime win against Iowa when Sean Leonard scored 39 points. And at the end of the game, I laid down. I put the mic down on the bench in front of me. And I laid down, and some guy, the EMTs came over. They thought I had a heart attack. So I was just exhausted.
Yeah,
I felt like I played, all the overtimes. I just felt like I was in it because each basket. No, you weren't there then, were you?
I was actually, believe it or not, Dick, I was actually at that game. I was still either in college or just out of college, but I attended that game. I don't, as you know, I grew up in Iowa, so my in-laws, my mother and father-in-law have season tickets forever, and I won't, I don't want to give away the whole secret, but I was in the building that night, and I wasn't cheering for the home team then, and that was, do you remember, I think it was Chris Kingsbury and Vashawn Leonard, they had this, in that game, they were making unbelievable three-point shots from all over the place. I was in the building that night. It was an incredible game. So
wow.
I don't blame you for being exhausted at the end of that game. But that was one of the great games. There's no question about it. And luckily, I've come over to the good side now. And we're good to go.
Attaboy, Grandma.
Yeah. But,
and I also I think about some events. I'll tell you one of the biggest ever, and that everybody was. Well, that's after the Gophers won the semifinals in '97, and they had a welcome home.
Right.
And holy cow, the arena was filled to capacity before the bus even got there. It was just unbelievable. And so I was late. You'll love this. I was late getting there, and the ushers wouldn't let me in. I said, "Hey, wait a minute. I have the MC. How do I know that?" The kid said. I said, "I'll tell you. I've got to get in there. I'm late." So it just so happened one of the top guys came by, and I got me in. But I thought, "Holy cow!"
Wow!
But people were crying. I remember Ray Christensen had a terrific talk. Beautiful job, like he always did.
Yeah, Hall of Fame.
And then, of course, I just introduced the ball players and so forth. But that was a wonderful thrill.
In '93, I was a senior in college, and I interned at WCCO Radio. And so I helped at that time. Ray, of course, was the great voice of Gopher basketball, but John Gordon, who did Twins games forever, he would do the pregame and the halftime and the postgame shows from the CCO studio. So as part of my internship, I got to know John really well, and college sports is kind of my cup of tea. So we hit it off, and I helped him produce those shows. And so I started to really get into Gopher basketball at that time, and that was the fall semester. I went back to college in Decorah, Iowa, at Luther College for the spring semester, but I was really into the Gophers at that time. It was they had a good team, and I want to say the Fab Five came to the barn, and a college roommate who was from Rushford, Minnesota. He got a couple of tickets from some people he knew, and he and I got into that game with the Fab Five. We sat in the student section. I still, to this day, am not sure I've ever been in a louder arena at that time. Honestly, I can't remember. I knew it was a game down to the wire. I can't remember even who won. I could look it up in the media guide. But my point is, that was so loud. Can you, for those that are maybe newer Gopher fans or current students now, can you put into words what those Clem years were like? Say from 90 to 97, 98. I mean, what that home court edge was like. I couldn't. Like I said, I went to a handful of games there. I wasn't living it like I am now. But man, that was a crazy time period at Williams Arena.
Oh, I agree with you, and I remember, of course, that whole season. That was the year they won the NIT, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. That was the NIT.
And so I'm there, and Steve Urban, who's such a great promoter, got me to appear at Toots Shores, do some comedy across the street from Madison Square Garden. I'll never forget that. Holy cow, that was fun, and the New York fans were very receptive. It was really, really kind of a neat deal.
And that might
have... What a thrill for me. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, that might have been how those, Steve has the traveling Gophers. That might have been their first, that might have been what launched that thing. The whole thing, I think, was that NIT trip, if memory serves me correct. And now they've traveled thousands of Gopher fans to all kinds of events since. But I believe that run might be how Steve got that started.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I do. Now that I think back, because he was so... just had me doing it every time we go somewhere. I went to Michigan State for a football game. There was a bar where I'd read, Jonckowski wants to talk. Jeepers Christ. So that happened in many, many places. So I have a lot to thank Steve for also. But you're right. You've known me long enough. You know that I love to entertain. And I'll get up at a kid's birthday party and talk. Yeah. Just because I want to do it and make people laugh.
Yeah, no question. You've been doing it for so many people over the years. But let me get. I kind of got you sidetracked there. Let me get back to that the atmosphere of the barn in the '90s. Try to explain, if you can, for those that maybe didn't get a chance to experience. I know there's a lot of longtime Gopher fans that go to games now, and they're kind of still hoping to clutch that can get back to that kind of an atmosphere on a nightly basis.
Yeah, I always thought that it was like, as an announcer, I always thought, make the fans start off with good stuff, so they'll look forward to the game and the announcements and even the starting lineups you could have some fun with. But it's changed over there as far as that's concerned. That part has quite a bit. But I would look at fans in the audience and say close games. Holy cow! It was just unbelievable. People would be biting their nails, throwing pop. Yeah, that's why I always said that University of Minnesota, Williams Arena, was probably one of the great places to play as far as the home field advantage. And even to this day, Mike, I don't know if you hear it, but I used to hear these players were afraid to go after loose balls because they didn't want to go off the court.
Yeah, and that building can take on a life of its own when it's full and when it's a good game. And, hopefully we can get to that point again here soon, which brings me to my next question for you, Dick. Ben Johnson, the new Gopher men's basketball coach, what do you remember about him as a player when you were announcing games at Williams Arena as the public address announcer?
Well, I remember, of course, he was from De La Salle, and as a kid, I was a big De La Salle fan. I don't know if you remember, I mentioned that Paul Lehman, you would remember that name, but he was such a great star, and then he came to the university. So I followed De La Salle players as they would come and go. Ben wasn't a star, but he was, I would call him a gamer and a pretty, a regular player. Nothing that maybe would stand out, but he was there. He was there all the time when you needed him. he was already available. And I think the thing that the Gophers looked at when they hired him, the fact that he is a local kid, and he goes out and really every high school you see him recruiting. I just think he's on the right track.
Yeah, it's nice to have a local tie, and I agree with you in terms of he was kind of a workmanlike player. He had some skill, but I think sometimes those kind of players make the best kind of coaches, right? Because they saw the game in maybe a different lens.
Oh, that's true. That is true. You know, and his assistant staff, all the new ones that he brought in and so forth, and that changes everything.
Yeah.
Changes the whole atmosphere as far as the Gophers are concerned. One thing I was going to ask you, if it bothers you, it used to bother me, there'd be a foul called, and before I could give the foul, the name, the number, they'd start off with maybe the band, then then they had at that time, do they still have the PA system every game?
Yeah.
I mean, I should say they play like the loud music, right?
Yes,
After a foul.
Yeah.
I always thought that was hard for me to concentrate, and I don't know if it was hard for the fans or not.
Sure, and then you try to get the identify who was shooting and who made the foul and all of that. For me, it's a little different because when I talk up there, nobody can hear me. At the barn, everyone can hear me on the radio, where it's the opposite for what you're doing, in that everyone in the building can hear you, and so and they're waiting to get the info. So, in a weird way, we do the same thing per se, but it kind of a little different approach in terms of delivering the message, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. I agree 100%.
Well, you mentioned Ben's coaching staff. I was going to ask you, so Dave Thorson is a member of that staff, of course, and you mentioned De La Salle, he was a longtime coach there, won 9 state titles, and your connection to Williams Arena is not just with the Gophers, but I've been to many state tournament games at the barn where you were the PA announcer there, and I know it's near and dear to your heart, not just doing state tournament games, but you do have done games at, Shakopee High School forever, and that the high school level is something that is close to your heart as well.
Oh, absolutely. Love to do it. I still do the state high school tournament, basketball, girls basketball and boys basketball, and I also do softball and baseball for the state high school league. So just a thrill for me. I've been doing it so long, but nevertheless, every time I sit in front of that microphone at Williams Arena, I don't care if it's a peewee game, it still gives you a big thrill.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's pretty cool too. I think that those state tournament games create a nice atmosphere because if it's a Gopher game, you've got everyone there cheering for the Gophers, and that's an awesome atmosphere. But when you get the state tournament game, you've got maybe 1,500 people on one side cheering for Zumbrota. I don't know. I'm just going to throw a name out, and 15 people on the other side cheering for Thief River Falls, and it's loud no matter what happens. If it's a good play, one side cheers. If it's a bad play, the other side cheers, and it does create a pretty fun atmosphere, I think.
No, I agree 100%. Just great. So I just feel I've been so fortunate to have spent 31 years as an announcer at Williams Arena. And here's the thing that people laugh at. I outlasted 8 athletic directors. So I guess I should be proud of that.
Well, yeah, and you think about the number of coaches too. Was it Coach Dutcher was the first coach for you?
No, Dutcher. No, it was Clem.
Clem was the first coach.
First year, 86, 87.
Gotcha. So, yeah, you went Clem and Dan Munson, and then Jim Molinari for a short time.
Yep.
And then Tubby, and then Richard Patino, and that's a. And then you're right, the athletic directors over the years too. Pretty long run of people you got to know and see in different styles, I suppose. And
I can thank Paul Giel for all that. It was because of Paul Giel, and he liked me, he liked the little laughs or whatever, and gave me the chance with Clem, and then he gave me the chance in football a year later, and then of course baseball 2 years after that with John Anderson. So it's been 31 years of basketball, 30 years of baseball, and 10 years of football.
Wow, that's amazing. That's an amazing.
And
run.
I did football when Lou Holtz was coach.
Yeah, right.
What do you think of that? That was beautiful.
Yeah, Darrell Thompson, our guy, was probably the running back, right?
Yes, he was. In fact, first game I ever did, because Julie Pearl had to retire. What did he have? A lung problem, and he couldn't drive. Daryl Thompson went 98 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah, Michigan, right.
Yeah, I'll never forget it.
Still,
I'll never forget it.
I believe that's still tied for the longest run in the history of the Big Ten. So our guy, our guy DT, that had to be, I'm trying to think what year that was, 80.
88?
88 probably, yeah.
87, 88?
86, 87, 88, somewhere in there. Anyway, it was quite a run. And you think about how big he was and strong and yet how fast, and that run really showcased that for sure. And a lot of great memories, no doubt about that.
I'll tell you, yeah.
Think of two.
Absolutely. Just football, and I didn't get to do it long enough, but I enjoyed it, the 10 years I was there. And then they kind of changed things up a little bit, and so they didn't need me really, my style.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I probably was let go. Actually, well, I'm not even sure who it was. I've heard it's 4 or 5 different people that decided they'd make a change.
Well, and now you think about baseball. You mentioned 30 years doing baseball, and it's the winningest program in the history of the Big Ten. Think of some of the really good players you were able to watch and call their name when they got in the batter's box. Are there some guys that stand out to you as your favorites in terms of the baseball field?
Oh, yeah. Rob Quaylen would be right up there. Really one of my favorite players. And, of course, I didn't have Molitor, or the Steinbachs. But I had other guys that Mark Marilla. Do you remember that name?
Yeah, the name sounds familiar. Yes.
I think he still has the largest or the longest or highest batting average in the history of the Big Ten. I'm almost sure.
Wow.
He was a great player. Dan Wilson, who had a great career in the major leagues. There were so many different guys that would come up and just. Well, they catch your eye. You know how?
Yeah.
I guess as an announcer, you and I are the same. You have your favorite players, and when they come up, you kind of cheer for them. In your heart, you cheer for them to do well. And it was just, I'd say, John Anderson. I don't even have to tell you, he's one of the nicest and the greatest guys I've ever met.
Yeah, he
classified. You know what he did for me? And I'll never forget this. While I was there, they won 9 championships. And he awarded me a ring for each championship that the players got.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's a sweetheart of a guy. There's no doubt, and it's not, one, he's a good dude, but 2, he obviously knows baseball and he's had all this success. And I think 2, this spring, they're going to get things back in order. I know last year bugged him because they didn't win as much as they're used to, and I think they've got some pitching things back where they want it, and they've gotten a few recruits and some transfers, and I think they feel good about that. But I was thinking in recent years too. You think about some of those guys and some of the, they made that trip to the super regional out to Oregon State. But even before that,
yes, David mentioned that.
I remember like Eric Decker, right? Who was a great receiver, played in the NFL. How good of a baseball player was he to watch every day when he was out there?
A great outfielder. He could go and get it, and he hit fairly well.
Yeah.
In fact, I thought he might have a chance, but actually he was smart to take football. But he had enough ability where he could have probably signed the contract.
Yeah, well, he was drafted, I think, by both the Twins and the Brewers at different times. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
you're right.
And then Vavra was kind of later. He was in that super regional team, the shortstop, the son of Taron Vavra, the son of the Twins at that time, the Twins coach. Right. And man, was he good and helped that team go through. I suppose you remember Glenn Perkins is one of the a Twins player who was one of the great pitchers.
One of the great left-handers. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had. There were guys all the time that would sneak in there that people were surprised to see who's this or who's that. I've never heard of them, and but that happens in college baseball all the time.
A couple of other things I want to ask you about. You mentioned earlier that you had ushered at Williams Arena before you were announcing, and you had ushered at Metropolitan Stadium. I know you also were part of the security detail at the old Met, and you've told me this story, and I'm sure many have heard it, but I want you to tell it again. You got on the bad list of Mrs. Tom Landry in the famous game at Met Stadium when the Cowboys got the Hail Mary against the Vikings. Tell us that story again, Dick.
Unbelievable. That was the Hail Mary play, Hail Mary day. I'll never forget it. December 28th, 1975. And, of course, everybody knows now that we lost the game, but up and even the years before that, Drew Pearson and I got in a fight on the side, not a yelling match because he was so cocky. And I said, you couldn't carry Charlie Taylor's supporter. And he just went after me, and, oh, man, I thought he was going to kill me.
And your job
security
again,
had to break that up.
Yeah, you were. What were you? What was your job at that time at the stadium?
I was the head field usher. In other words, my job was to stop anybody that didn't have the proper pass to be on the field.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they had guys that would sneak on. Oh, you wouldn't believe it. I had a guy. I love this. They had a drunk guy, a guy from Green Bay. They bet him. One guy bet him $200 that he couldn't run 100 yards without being tackled. So the guy, I see the guy out of the corner of my eye, jump out of the stands, starts running across the field. I tackle him at the 35-yard line of the Vikings, and the fans stood up and cheered like it was a real game. It was really something in those days.
Crazy. So you had already had a little history with Pearson, and then the Hail Mary happened. So then take us through how Mrs. Tom Landry didn't like that.
No, the play was the play before, of course. This is when it happened. It was 4th and 17, and they threw the ball down the right side. Nate Wright was there, Krause, and Jeff Wright, but none of them got there in time. And the ball was caught and dropped. And they still say that it went off the. He pushed off actually on Jeff Wright, and then nobody got to the play in time, and he scored. And the fans were just, you could have heard a pin drop. And that's where the Armin Terzian thing came in. The back judge who made the call. Right. What happened is they're standing there, and I'm about 2 yards away from Terzian, and out comes a half pint of booze, empty bottle, hits Terzian in the head. He bled like a stuck pig. They came out, all the security, the MTs, whatever you need. And I thought, oh, man, I don't dare laugh at this because the camera's right on me.
Yeah.
So I was as concerned as anybody else. But, boy, I'll tell you, the fans were cheered to beat heck. They never do that. But they cheered when they took him off the field. So then the play, they won the game. Bud Grant said it's the best team he ever had. And after that game, I saw Roger Staubach. And he said, what's your problem with Drew Pearson? And I said, well, we both fought, we both yell, just bad comments. He said, I'll tell you what, do me a favor. He's going to retire soon. Will you make up, when you play here again, will you make up to him and you guys, get along? So they came back 2 years later. Pearson came in, about five years ago in a limo, and he brought his old camera company, and I put on my usher uniform, which still fit, and put on my usher's coat, and walked out and opened the door. I said, Mr. Pearson, I'm your security. Oh, great. You should have heard him. You son of a... Oh, he just went nuts. And then, after a while, he settled down, came in, and he was signing autographs. And when he got through, he said, hey, Dick, tell me something. Could we reenact that kicking scene for my TV show? I said, sure. So it's great. He lays down, the play where he came on a bounce, holds that foot up, and all I ever did was kick the bottom of his shoe. And so that's, he loved it. I guess he reused it several times.
Oh,
so I was in his book. And the story on the Tom Landry thing, when I kicked him, Mrs. Landry saw it.
Yeah, so what happened, real quick, so what happened when he caught the play before the winning touchdown, he landed, and you just kind of tapped him on the cleat, a little frustration kick, and then I'll let you proceed with the story.
Well, he actually came down out of bounds, and that was the controversy thing on that one, and they ruled in bounds, and that's why, out of frustration, I kicked him. But Mrs. Landry saw it. She called Pete Rozelle, the commissioner. She said, Pete, you better check your film or your videotape. One of their guards kicked Drew Pearson on the play before. So he checked it out, called the head of the ushers, who was Bob Sims. He said, you have to reprimand with Jonckowski. We know he's been there a long time, but we can't have that. So you figure out what you have to do. So what he did, he actually banned me from the field for 2 years. I could be in the dugout or whatever, but I couldn't go on the field and catch the field goals. And that's another thing I'm proud of in 17 years, I caught 112 field goals, which nobody will ever break that record. You can be sure.
Now, how did you go about that? So that you catch it off the net and then it comes down?
Did I what?
When you caught the field goals, was it would hit the net and then roll down and you'd catch them off the net?
No. In those days we didn't have a net. The early days we didn't have a net. 60s, and so that's why I caught a lot of them. I catch them off the net, but I made some crazy catches, and I think the fans remember against the Chicago Bears on a kickoff from Percival. I backed up to catch the ball, fell over the tarp, and landed head over heels, and the people just laughed to beat heck. In fact, there's a picture of it in one of the Viking books that's out right now.
Wow.
I'd have to find it for you. I don't think I will. Get a chance.
For sure. Speaking of books, I know you recently had come out with a book. How did that book sale go, and can people still get copies of that?
Can you believe it? It's sold out.
Sold out. So they're going to have to find a second hand, huh?
Yeah, we might do another one. We're getting a lot of calls that people missed it. And so, Mike could probably... I think I might try to do another 500 or something. Yeah, along those lines.
Well, I'm proud on my collection. I've got a nice autographed copy of the book, and that's thanks to you. I appreciate that, and it's a wonderful book with all kinds of great stories. And part of some of the questions, of course, I asked today was based on some stuff I learned from that book. So, if people, maybe they can find it at at a bookstore or maybe eBay or.
I'll keep you updated.
Yeah, please do.
What I'm going to do in that situation.
Please do.
The three guys are my favorite players of all time at the university.
Yeah.
I'd say in basketball, probably Lou Hudson, and also like Dick Jonckowski, even though I didn't see him play in person.
Yep.
But I loved watching him on TV. And in football, you won't believe this, but do you remember Tommy Hall from the Rose Bowl teams?
I don't know.
Played end. He was just at the end, but a defense and offense, and a great player. And he's for some reason. He's still my favorite Gopher ever.
Yeah.
And, of course, in basketball, baseball, I've got so many that it's hard to pick. But I mentioned before that some of the guys that are my favorite players along the way, and just great guys all the way around. Hey, Jack Hanahan, I used to have so much fun with his name. I'd say, Jack Hanahan, and cry. People would laugh, and he'd look up at me and say, give me a few shots. But that's another thing John Anderson lets you do, is you can have fun with names. And there was a center fielder for Ohio State named Mike Check. So I'd say center fielder, Mike Check, and just fun with that. And I tell you, just anytime I can see an opening in basketball too, and when reserves would come in,
Right.
I remember Quincy Lewis and Clark, and I said Lewis and Clark kid from Minnesota. Just a lot of that stuff that I would look for. They don't do that anymore.
Yeah, boy, that's great. As you would go on the banquet circuit, and like I said, a lot of it was baseball related, but there were all kinds of different banquets you did. Did you have some favorite stops over the years that different banquets or conventions or cities that you would visit?
Well, there's certain ones that I did for. Let's see, in Montrose, I did a Athlete of the Year banquet for 26 years. And, they were just these same people would come back year after year, and I'd tell a lot of the same stories, but it didn't matter to them. They laughed. They just liked it the way it was. And that was a great one, and I'm still doing the Hall of Fame banquet for amateur baseball. I've done that for 40 years, believe it or not.
Yeah.
It's just, I can't believe it either. So I've had a lot of, I'd have to say that many banquets that have me back year after year, like the High School Hall of Fame, for instance, the basketball coaches meeting that they have before the season starts. I did a lot of football stuff for Don Swanson. It just seemed like I get an opportunity. Well, I guess the best thing I have going is that the word of mouth. People say, have you heard Jonckowski?
Yep.
That kind of thing, and I think that really helps.
Well, no question about it, and we'll look forward to you getting back to full health and out on the banquet circuit. We can't wait to see you, and if you can if you get a chance to get out to a Gopher game here before this season wraps up, be sure to come say hi, all right?
Well, I'll do that. Mike, you know darn well.
All right. Well, hey, Dick, it's been so fun. You got anything else? You got a good couple of jokes to close us out here that you'll be using when you get back out on the circuit?
Yeah. One of the guys sitting in a barber shop, and a beautiful gal walks in, and he looks at her. He says, "Man alive, you're a knockout. Would you consider going out with me?" Well, she said, "I might, but you'd have to ask my husband." He said, "Well, where is he?" She said, "He's shaving you." You know, so stuff like that people love. And the bank robber joke goes over so well, where the guy goes into the bank to rob the bank, 30 people in the lobby of the bank. So he herds them into the vault, and he said, "Remember, none of you saw me rob the bank." So he walks up to the first guy, and he said, "Did you see me rob the bank?" He said, "I sure did." He shot him. Goes up to the second guy. He said, "Did you see me rob the bank?" He said, "I saw you." Bang, he shoots him. So he goes up to the third guy. He said, "Did you see me rob the bank?" He said, "No, but my wife did."
Oh man, that's a beauty. That's a beauty. Well,
yeah, those are keepers.
Those are keepers. And on that note, we will wrap up the podcast. Dick, we're going to have you back on the podcast. It's so much fun. We got so much stuff to talk about yet that we haven't, and I'm looking forward to it. And continued good health. Get better. We're glad that you're progressing through this. I know it's been a fight, but hang in there, and we will see you on campus at some point here soon.
Well, I'll give you a call. We'll get together again sometime. Hey, what a deal. Mike, thank you.
My thanks to Dick Jonckowski for joining me on the Go Gopher podcast. He's an absolute Minnesota gem. And again, our thanks to our presenting sponsors, Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're buying or selling a business, visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com. The Go Gopher podcast is also brought to you by State Farm agent Tony Hoagland. Again, I'd invite you to listen to past podcasts, and please be sure to subscribe to the Go Gopher podcast right now. It's absolutely free to listen. We'll talk again next week.